If you've saved a decent amount for retirement, but haven't retired yet, how come? Well, in this video, I'll show you the real reasons that people keep working past age 59 despite having enough saved, and why being financially prepared on its own does not create the confidence to retire. Hi, I'm Patrick King. Over the years, I've worked with plenty of clients who, despite having plenty saved, couldn't get over the hump and actually retire. This inability to retire comes from a lot of head trash around control, purpose, and the comfort of a structured routine, rather than not having enough saved up. So that's what we're doing today. We're showing you the 3 things that prevent people from retiring after age 59, and how addressing some of this head trash can allow you to comfortably transition from earning to living off of your savings. All right, let's get you retired. But first, we need to talk about why having enough saved up on its own does not give many people the confidence to turn in their notice. Have you ever heard of this idea about the elephant and the rider? This was something that psychologist Jonathan Haidt came up with in his book, The Righteous Mind. Essentially, he implies that most humans often behave like an elephant being ridden by a person. The person riding the elephant represents our rational, analytical mind. The rider understands the world and knows where he wants to go and why. The elephant, however, represents our emotional and instinctual side. And even though the rider has the reins and understands the best path to take, when the elephant decides that it wants to go somewhere, that's where the rider's going to, whether he likes it or not. Haidt's assertion is that these emotional factors often have a much greater sway on our decisions and actions than we like to admit. And so working past 59, even if you have enough saved up, is one of these cases where the elephants made the decision to just keep on trucking. So how can the elephant part of our brain get past this pachyderm paradox? First, we'll need to unpack 3 reasons why this elephant is afraid to take a new path into retirement. If you've followed my channel for any time, you may have heard me say something to the effect of, there are actually very few things in this world that we can control. And that's true, but it's also a reminder sometimes. Because, some of us may have control issues. So one of the big hurdles for retirement is the loss of control that comes with stopping that predictable income and starting to rely on your savings to pay the bills. After all, once you retire, you don't want to have to go back to work, and that probably wouldn't be easy to do if you had to. And so for a lot of people, it's hard to let go of that predictable income that's allowed them to save up enough to retire. And what this ends up being is a battle between the scarcity mentality that creates the control issues and the desire to have the freedom that comes with retirement. And this is even harder for high achievers or someone who derives a lot of satisfaction from their job. I've worked with plenty of people in the past who had more than twice what they needed saved up, but still couldn't get over this first hurdle. It's almost like the more they saved up, the more they thought they had to lose. But there's a flip side to this kind of thinking. The longer you work, the less time that you have to spend in retirement, especially those early years when you're the healthiest and most active. There's a psychological comfort that comes with staying stuck in accumulation mode. It's the fear of running out of money that's driving the elephant, even while the rational rider realizes that while there are no guarantees in life, they're likely to never run out of money. And unfortunately, like Jonathan Haidt suggests, the elephant does tend to make more decisions for us than we'd like to admit. But it's not just the illusion of control that keeps us from retiring. Our next psychological hurdle is a pretty common one. So have you ever seen a dog chase someone riding a bicycle? As someone who's had a few dogs and ridden a few bicycles, I'm fairly certain that the dog chasing the bicycle isn't really thinking about what he'll do if he catches it. No, he's just in it for the chase. People don't let their dogs run loose anymore, thank goodness. But let's use this idea as a thought experiment. For a lot of us, reaching retirement is simply solving a problem, the money problem. We all play the game of accumulating enough money so that we can be free of the game at some point. And this is something that requires a lot of focus over a sustained period. But what happens when you're free from the game? What then? It's a little like the dog that catches the guy on the bicycle. Now what? After decades of work and the effort that you've put into freeing yourself from the money game, a lot of who you are gets tied into what you do. Retiring and stepping away from work can threaten a lot of people's identity, purpose, and feeling of usefulness in the world. For a lot of us who have had our heads down, it's common, once we've finally solved the money problem, to start questioning our purpose, or even who we are. And so these kinds of questions end up being a huge barrier that keeps people working long after they have enough to retire. And I don't want to seem like I'm disparaging that golden retriever brain that's in all of us, that singular focus of fetching the tennis ball when it comes to saving enough to be free of the money game is useful, if not necessary, to pull it off. But once you get past that and start asking the purpose questions, things can get icky and fast. And this ends up being another reason that people keep working way longer than they have to. Look, purpose doesn't have to be about saving the whales. What we're looking for here is a reason for you to be excited to get out of bed in the morning once you retire. And once you do finally turn in your notice and retire, all of this stuff eventually works itself out. And people tend to be much happier on the other side of it. And hey, if any of these psychological barriers resonate with you, then click on the link below to book a call. We'll analyze your situation and show you exactly how to build a plan that will allow you to retire sooner. So where struggling with purpose after retirement can keep people working longer than they have to, these barriers to retiring early don't always have to be so deep. One of the things that terrifies me about fully stepping away from work is, what am I going to do during the day? Y'all have to remember that I'm a recovering engineer, so for me, having structure to my days and weeks is kind of like a security blanket. And I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. And so in retirement, losing the psychological comfort of this structure, knowing what the routine's going to look like every day, is another reason that keeps people working longer than they have to. If you have anxiety around how you're going to spend your free time, then of course you're going to be more likely to avoid that thing that's going to cause you anxiety. It makes it easier to keep working to accumulate a little bit more or shift the goalposts on how much you need. It can even cause people to avoid planning for retirement altogether because they're not sure they want to know they could have retired 2 years ago. This is one of the reasons that I've started walking my clients through a life vision exercise when we start working together. It's something to help them replace their current routine with another one, rather than replacing it with nothing. Of course, this doesn't affect everyone. A lot of people are just good. So going from having a routine to having none is a common barrier to retiring early, even if you do have enough saved. But while reliance on a routine can cause retirement paralysis, there's still one more mindset shift that you'll need to go from saving to spending. One of the biggest pucker factor moments of retirement is flipping the switch from putting money into your account to taking money out of your account. It requires a completely different mindset, but it's one that we'll all need to address if we want to retire. And so there are a couple of different factors that we'll need to discuss when it comes to that mindset shift. The first is loss aversion. Psychologically, a loss tends to be much more emotionally impactful than a gain. In fact, losses create 3 times the emotional impact as an equivalent gain. So this is something that we need to understand when we're talking about early retirement. It's what drives many people to be overly conservative with their retirement timing or their withdrawals early on in retirement. And they end up inadvertently foregoing some of those things that they wanted to do while they were still relatively young, healthy, and active. And that brings us to our next factor, the illusion of control. Like I mentioned earlier, other than our actions and our attitudes, there really isn't much in this world that we can control. We can have the best retirement plans created using the most advanced software that's based on the most in-depth projections available. But at the end of the day, man plans and God laughs. Things will go sideways at some point during your retirement. And this is certainly where the serenity prayer comes in handy.
Serenity now! Serenity now! What is that?
But I'll let you in on a little secret. There's an antidote to stressing over this, and it's this: you will figure it out. No matter what happens that's out of your control, you will figure it out. You won't have to go live in a van down by the river. And if you're still struggling with making this mindset shift from saving to spending, there are a couple of books I'd recommend. The first is The Tools by Barry Michaels and Phil Stutz. The second is Loving What Is by Byron Katie. Simply understanding that these factors exist can help you get past some of these psychological barriers to retiring, even if you already saved up enough. So obviously, having enough money isn't the only thing that you need to retire early. There are a few mental hurdles that a lot of people, not everybody, need to clear first in order to have the confidence to turn in their notice. The first is to allow our inner elephant to let go of the need to have that regular paycheck coming in every month and accept that you can pay your bills. Next, we need to address any issues around who we are or what is our purpose and allow ourselves to evolve into a new chapter of life. The singular focus of working to be free of the money game has served us well. Retiring means that we can finally put that behind us. Unless you just don't want to stop. Look, it's okay if you want to work longer. It's your life. Next, we need to figure out how we'll want to spend our time and what we'll do with our days. I've found that getting stuck trying to figure out your purpose can often be counterproductive. Instead, try to figure out something to do consistently that'll make you excited to get out of bed in the morning. It doesn't have to be deep. Bringing joy to your life is meaningful enough. And finally, we'll need to be aware of a couple of mindset shifts that will allow us to retire with confidence. The first is understanding how loss aversion skews our perception. If a loss hits us 3 times harder than a gain, that could cause us to be overly conservative in many ways. And the upside surprise is just as likely, if not more so, than the downside surprise. The next is realizing and accepting that we have very little control over the world. Serenity now, serenity now.
Serenity now, insanity later.
But remember, no matter what happens, you will figure it out. So now that you have a good framework to help you understand why many people keep working past 59, even if they have enough money saved to retire, along with how the need for control, those icky questions about purpose, and the psychological benefits of a routine create those roadblocks to retiring early, you can address all of this stuff so you can be confident enough to retire early. Because I want your retirement and your life to be an amazing one. If you need help with your retirement planning, click on the link below to book a call where we'll analyze your situation and show you exactly how to optimize your retirement strategy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.